where are the 49ers at right now? Is this a team that can ruin the Rams' hopes and dreams after coming off what is one of the best regular season wins of Sean McVay's career, maybe the biggest win of Sean McVay's regular season career? Can they do that this Thursday night?
It's funny. I mean, McVay did win a Super Bowl, but you're talking regular season. Like, absolutely,
Exactly.
This was one of their biggest wins. And when Kyle on the other side is like coaching for his job over here because he hasn't won a Super Bowl and he's in year 8 and it's getting looked like it was getting a little stale considering he got freaking blown off the map by the Bills last week. So it was like it was a must-win game. They controlled the game from the opening snap. It was impressive, but it also was the Bears. And it's hard to say that what the Niners did is going to carry over. Like, yeah, they got the ball to Kittle a lot. That's good. They got the ball to Jennings a lot. That's good. Like, is their defense really as good as it showed, or are the Bears god awful? Hard to say. So what the Rams just did against the Bills is legit. I mean, that counts. What the Niners did against the Bears is a little questionable. I guess we'll have to see if they can actually win a second game in a row. And what's funny is they have all these positive vibes. The season's been defined by negative vibes, like drama and bad luck and anything that could go wrong going wrong. They win this game, everything's going good, and then Debo the next day on Twitter complains about his usage after a win where they win by 25 and score 38 points, and he's talking about he's frustrated. So then everyone yesterday is like, yeah, man, Debo's right, man. We got to get him the ball. Like, not really. No, you don't. So there's always something with this team, and from afar, it seems like the Rams, say what you want about them. I mean, they haven't been super dominant the last few years, but they never seem to have like these kinds of drama and distractions.
No, you're absolutely right. They're not allowed. I think I said it the last time we linked up because when the Rams have any sort of distraction on that level, they're removed.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Trey White was a pro's pro after he got benched, and before it ever became a distraction, like, hey, that's like 4 weeks in a row I've been sitting on the bench here, was starting. What's up? Am I still a part of this team? They didn't even waste time. They're like, all right, we're going to trade you at the deadline. They got nothing for him because they wanted him to go to the right fit. They're not trying to screw these guys, but like Cam Akers, you can't have a guy who you draft in the second round to be your franchise running back just hold out because he doesn't like that Kyren Williams is better than he is and he's getting more playing time because of it. So Sean McVay said, all right, let's move on. Deshaun Jackson, right? They're 7-0, and this guy's like, I need more targets. He's like, well, do you want to be a part of a Super Bowl team or not? He said no. He actually, to this day, he actually regrets that. He said it on his podcast as such. But they removed him, right? I think they just straight up released him. So
was Jared Goff an example of that too?
I think it was. And I'll say this. I don't know if you knew about the whole Mike Silver puff piece. I know he just dropped another one of his, puff piece specials about his fellow alumni. Because Jared Goff, it was like 2022. He went to Dan Campbell, thought he was going to get benched, and then he came out rejuvenated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had another one of those. I haven't seen Mike Silver around the Rams since. And,
is that right?
Yeah, I think I
He's
remember it being, I don't know. I can't really say. I'm not in LA, right? But wow. I just know that I've seen something shift, right? We don't hear about Mike Silver. He's never reporting on the Rams anymore. And it was after that piece when Jared Goff was talking to him on the team plane, the back of the team plane, and like, I guess kind of complaining about his situation, which was bizarre. So yeah, to answer your question,
we'll get to Goff a little later when I interrogate you and this cross.
Hey, I'm here for it. it. So I asked you about the 49ers. Mm-hmm. They got Kittle back, and Kittle looks as good as any tight end in the league. Maybe Brock Bowers is a little bit ahead of him right now. He's a freak. But George Kittle had 150-plus yards, 6 catches. The last time the Rams linked up against the 49ers, Juwan Jennings had a legacy game. I know you and I are probably one of the only 2 people out there that have actually been as high on Juwan Jennings. I actually wanted the Rams to go out and get him this offseason, was hoping, he wouldn't get the second round tender, and he did, which was smart. Jennings had 90 yards, and he caught 2 touchdowns in this past game. Looking at Brock Purdy, which I feel like you keep it real with him, and Jesse keeps it real with him, and I've seen Rob keep it real with him. I feel like now, since Brock Purdy had that game against the Bears, the narrative now is 20 for 25, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Bears' dominant defense. But here's the thing. Here's the tidbit, okay? And I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Do you think Brock Purdy is quote-unquote back, or do you think he played against a defense that I think people are essentially forgetting that while Eberflus wasn't the greatest head coach, having him just gone like that and firing him overnight hurt the defense? So what do you think?
It certainly hurt the defense. It torpedoed the defense. And I'll explain exactly how. So Brock Purdy had about 40 starts, almost 50 starts in the NFL. We know his strengths and weaknesses. And against zone coverage, he's elite because he processes quickly. He throws the anticipation. He throws the spots. He's very, very good at it, especially when the Niners have a bunch of weapons and Kyle Shanahan scheming things open. So against zone, he carves you up. You don't want to play zone against the 49ers. That's why so many teams play much more man-to-man coverage against the Niners than they do against anyone else. His passer rating against man-to-man coverage this year is 50-something. Against zone, it's 120-something. That's Brock Purdy because he just doesn't have the arm to fit the ball in the tight windows down field against man-to-man coverage. So the Bears, dum-dums that they are, came out and played almost exclusively zone against the 49ers. That's the mark of a team that's just mailing it in and doesn't have a head coach anymore. I think if Eberflus were there, they might. But he's a zone guy anyway. The Rams know what to do. I mean, if you play man, Brock's in trouble. If you do the simulated pressures, the Niners are in trouble. They haven't picked up one of those in 2024. I just felt like the Bears were really unprepared and didn't know who they were facing.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because Thomas Brown took over as the interim head coach, and I think you've seen good things in the offensive side, but the 49ers essentially early on take away the run game, and it's like they didn't really take it away. You could keep doing it, and they just stopped. And when you start, if you do it with Brock Purdy, if you force him to have to be the offense, just like you're forcing Caleb Williams, good things are not going to come out of that. But looking back, Brock Purdy had what I would say is his best game of the year against the Rams back in week 3. The Rams at that point, that defense is young. They're still young, but they've grown up quite a bit since then. In addition to that, the offensive line was just absolutely bashed and bruised and bloodied going into that game. Tutu Atwell was the number 1 receiver for the team, and Demarcus Robinson. They used Jordan Whittington in that game. So I don't know exactly, how things went down or whatever. I don't necessarily want to discredit what Brock Purdy did, but I do think not having Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and a bunch of guys definitely led to what we saw. However, they lost that game. Despite Brock Purdy throwing 3 touchdowns in that game, Jordan Mason had no issue running the football. Brock Purdy moved the chains, and Juwan Jennings had almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. They lost that game. So how does Brock Purdy turn that into a win this time at Santa Clara?
Well, keep in mind, in that game, Jordan Mason played. He won't be playing. Brandon Ayuk played. He won't be playing. Deebo Samuel was out. He'll be there. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And then George Kittle didn't play either. And to me, what's interesting about this season is the Niners had this whole identity crisis for 3 months. And I think it was tied into Christian McCaffrey. They thought they were going to have him week 1. And then all of a sudden, 90 minutes before that weekend, they realized, actually, we're not going to have him for half a season. I think they kept waiting for him to come back and thinking, let's not overreact. He'll carry us the way he used to, and he didn't. And so now when he finally went down again with the knee injury, the Niners were like, we got to figure out who this team is without him. And so it's so clear it's George Kittle. He's a Hall of Fame player, probably having one of his best seasons. I mean, he's just, you could argue he should have way more targets than he has. And it was just a couple of weeks ago in Buffalo, he had 2 targets the whole game and caught one of them. So now in this must-win situation, I would expect George Kittle is going to be featured heavily. because they don't have a choice, and he's obviously their best player. And I think that's kind of interesting. Like, you haven't seen this version. I mean, you've seen George Kittle a million times, but this is going to be the Niners pressing the issue with him, I think, if they're smart. And you also have Jawan Jennings, who just did a good job against the Rams earlier this season. And I meant to look this up, but Debo generally does a great job against the Rams too. So that's the Niners' hope right there, is that they have some weapons. Now, they don't have a running back. Garendo may not be able to play. They may have to put Debo Samuel at running back full time, and that hasn't worked in years. So it's iffy, but that's the hope.
So Debo Samuel gets up to play against the Rams. I have it right here: 47 catches, 639 yards, 7 touchdowns in 9 games. Except when it's, of course, the playoffs, then he doesn't really do much. But I'm just saying, you do it, I do it.
It's not, but it is a playoff type game, so who knows? Like, it's regular season, but
I mean, if you're Debo Samuel, is this not your career right now? I mean, they could cut him, take on all that money, and just be like, you know what, it's worth it. Like, I think I saw you mention he's not the explosive player he used to be. And I saw another dude mention Lombardi, I think it was, say that he had like one play where he did something. He was like, see, this is why he's explosive. And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I've watched him. I don't think his explosion is gone currently. Maybe it'll come back magically against the Rams. It seems like I couldn't see any Rams fan, analyst, whatever. I could not see them looking at this game and saying, yeah, they're going to just dominate the 49ers. 49ers are going to get up to play because at the end of the day, while it's very unlikely they're going to make the playoffs, the odds are like 5% right now. And if they lose this, they're like below 1%. It's not even that to me, Grant. I think these two teams hate each other so much. And let's just put it this way. Debo, Deommodore Lenoir, whoever was talking smack after they lost. So you got to back that up, right? Like, I mean, Deommodore Lenoir goes on Twitter and he calls his team trash, essentially. So if this trash team got lucky, well, you can't let them beat you in your own house in front of the entire world, right? So that's how I see it.
Hey, there's a lot of stake for Kyle Shanahan in this game. Forget Debo. I mean, he's on the way out one way or another. Like, Kyle is kind of coaching for his job over here. I mean, some people may laugh about it, and he just won big last week, which is helping his cause, but he didn't win a Super Bowl like Sean McVay. He's in year 8, and the way he lost to Green Bay and Buffalo back-to-back weeks makes you wonder, like, have you lost this team? Like, do they need a new voice because they're not playing for you anymore? You got pushed, you didn't just get beat, you got pushed around, and your team didn't have any fight. So they fought against Chicago, but now's the test. And if they get blown out at home on Thursday Night Football by this team and this coach, I just don't know how the Niners owners will take it. So I think there's a lot at stake. I'm not saying the Niners will get blown out, but I do think there's a lot at stake for Kyle in this game.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. We got a super chat here all day, every day. Kim, appreciate you. Brock beats up terrible teams in good weather. Is that
bad
true
news
or false?
for Brock? It's gonna rain.
Oh boy, bad news for Brock. Everyone said
the ball
that
like slips out of his hand like at least once a game when it's wet. Well,
I'll say it right now. Okay, you remember that game last year? It was very similar to the Bills game that they just had against the Ravens. Do you remember that last year?
I do.
Everyone was saying when they went to Baltimore, it's gonna be ugly. 14-12, 17-12, 10-9, and it ended up being a barn burner in the pouring rain and the freezing cold in Baltimore. And I just
that was a home game. They played the Ravens at home. I was there.
Yeah. Wait, you were at the Baltimore game?
No, it was in Santa Clara. I was there for that one. I remember.
No, I meant the Rams game. Do you remember?
Oh, the Rams.
Yeah.
So sorry. I'm so confused.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
My bad.
You are fine. Do you remember that game, though? Like,
I do remember that game.
Existing, right?
Yes.
And you remember everyone saying, oh, it's going to be a long day. Teams are just going to run the football. And it seemed that way. They came out with 9 straight runs for Kyren Williams against the number 1 run defense. And they had success. And guess what? It became a shootout. Lamar Jackson's throwing deep down the field. Stafford's throwing. My point here.
Purdy won't be throwing deep down the field in the rain. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you that.
My point here is that this game scares me a lot more back in the day with Jared Goff. This game in the rain doesn't scare me with Stafford. Did you know Stafford right now has 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, over 1,000 yards in his last 4 games? And did you know that the Rams are essentially 12-1 in the Stafford era under Sean McVay in December? I mean,
That doesn't. Is the one game against the Niners?
no. You know what the one game was? I just said it. It was against the Ravens.
Oh, because they lost that one in January to the Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah. 17.
That was
18.
wild. That was
wild.
That was a that
Debo
was
Samuel
one
threw
of
a
those,
touchdown pass in that game.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Tutu Atwell threw a pass in week 3. It was incomplete. I think he's going to throw a touchdown pass in this game.
Tutu Atwell was like the MVP of that game. Well, it was
I know.
Stafford, but he was the number 2.